Okay, so here's today's agenda. We're going to introduce ourselves. I've got my colleague here, Nancy Inchley. We're both going to introduce ourselves. We're going to go over program information, take a look at tuition fees, scholarships and funding, the application deadlines, admission requirements, supplemental documentation that's required, supplemental questions in the application, references, additional topics of discussion that you guys provided in that everybody provided in the RSVP link. And then you're going to have an opportunity to ask questions. So I'm going to shut the chat off during the presentation because I'd like you to focus on that. And then we're going to get into the opportunity to ask questions later on in the webinar here. Okay, so Nancy, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Nancy Inchley, and I'm the Graduate Affairs Assistant for the Applied Psychology ARC, which is the Counselling Psychology is a part of that. I have been working at Western since 1999, so for over 22 years, and I have been with graduate education since 2006 and within the Faculty of Education graduate program since April of 2020. So welcome, everybody, and I hope you learn lots about the program and have any questions, ask us at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. One request that I also have that I forgot to mention is if you're not speaking, please mute your microphone just so that we can hear the presentation and just in case there's some feedback noise. That would be great. Thank you, everybody. So my name's Allison Watson. I'm the recruitment coordinator for the graduate education programs. I have been working at Western since 2013. I started in this department and I've never left. I've loved my time here at the Faculty of Education and recently moved into this role. But between Nancy and I, we have so much knowledge and so much experience. So at the end, feel free to ask us anything. Okay, so let's dive in. I'm sure that you all have taken a look into the program that we offer, but I'd like to go over some specific details with you. So the Master of Arts in Education Studies in the field of Counseling Psychology is a 2-year full-time research-intensive degree. Students do typically complete in 5 terms, even though a 2-year degree is considered 6 terms, but typically everybody's finished within the 5 terms. So your first year is as follows. In the fall, you go through September to December and you take 3 courses. In the winter, you're taking 4 courses and you're working on your thesis proposal. And then the end of year 1 in summer from May to August, you're doing 1 course and then you're working on your thesis. Okay, so for the second year in the fall, again, September to December, you're working on 2 courses as well as your thesis. And then in your final term, year 2, winter, you complete 4 courses and then you focus on your thesis defense. Okay. So for tuition fees are set each year by Senate and then published to the Office of the Registrar's Fee Schedules webpage. Fees are assessed each term, so fall, winter, and summer. Everybody asks for an exact amount of tuition. Unfortunately, we can't provide that because tuition does increase by up to 8% every academic year. We can give you a general guideline for how much tuition fees are. So again, this is a 2-year on-site program through Western. Tuition and ancillary fees for this program are charged based on student status. So all of our students in this program are full-time students. So for the 2020-2021 academic year, tuition and ancillary fees for a Canadian citizen or permanent resident were approximately $3,000 Canadian per term. And that is for the fall, winter, and summer. Okay, the winter and summer tuition is a little bit less because in the fall, students are charged for the student health and dental plan. If you do have coverage somewhere else, you are able to opt out of that. And if you're admitted to the program, we will go over that in depth in the orientation. So based on the information of about 3,000 Canadian per term, and the full-time versus part-time status, you can take a look at the tuition fees on the following website. And keep in mind, I am going to be sending out this slide information when I let you know when the recording is available, okay? So you don't need to furiously scribble down that website. I will send that out to you. So we get into our funding here. So we do have internal scholarships available for students who are studying at the Faculty of Education. I do want to let you know that students are automatically considered for the Academic Research Cluster Scholarship. So there's nothing you need to do for that. Every single applicant is considered for that scholarship. Okay, and then if you're admitted, more details will come in your offer of admission. We started 2 new scholarships at the Faculty of Education just last year. The first one is for students living with disabilities, and the second is for any Indigenous students. So it is a separate application process for these scholarships. And at the time of application, that's when you would apply. And it's an admission scholarship. So you're able to apply for it when you apply to the program. And there is more information at the link below. Again, I'm going to send out this slide deck. And then here's some external funding sources. So our students typically apply to the Ontario Graduate Scholarship, or OGS. And we also have the Canadian Graduate Scholarship, that should say Masters. I will fix that when I send it out. So Graduate Scholarship, Canadian Graduate Scholarship for Masters. That includes SSHRC, the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council, CIHR, and NSERC. If you're admitted to the program, we will go over everything in depth in the application, in the new student orientation. And we've got to give a pop quiz because we are the Faculty of Education. So here's your pop quiz. So question 1, how many terms per year are students enrolled in? Is it 1, 2, or 3? That's right. Yay, everybody got it right. I did a good job. Okay. So then, oh, we didn't go over this. I didn't say this in my introduction. So this is not a good question for me to ask, but you get to guess. Let's have a guess. Who likes cats more, me or Nancy Inchley? How do most people know it's me?
For the record, I do like cats as well.
But I'm trying to make my cat Instagram famous. So there's that. But yes, it's me. So it's 3 terms per year that students are enrolled in. And I like cats more. Thanks everybody for participating. Okay, so let's move on here. So the application deadline. The deadline for the application for this program is January 15th, 2022. Okay, so that's going to give you plenty of time. I will let you know that the admissions committee is not going to review any application before the deadline happens. Okay, so make sure that all of your information, your required documents, including your references, are submitted by January 15th, 2022. I will let you know this is a very competitive program. We receive approximately 150 applications for 15 spots in the program. Okay, so make sure you get all of your documents uploaded and your application submitted by the time the deadline comes, including your references. I can't stress that enough. Okay. So our admission requirements, there's quite a few of them, so I broke them up into different slides, okay, just not to overwhelm you. So we're looking for a 4-year honors degree, which is 20 full courses or the equivalent with a major in psychology from an accredited university. I will let you know this is a definite requirement for admission to this program. Last year, like I said, it was 150 applications we received and just 15 spots. The majority of our applicants meet and exceed our admission requirements. So just please keep that in mind. I don't want to scare you away from applying to this program, but I want you to be aware. So we have a minimum of 70% or equivalent in the final 2 years of study. Okay. Um, Yeah, so final 2 years of study is what we use to calculate your admission average. We're looking for 1 year minimum equivalent paid or volunteer experience in the helping professions. I'm going to give you more details about that coming up. So minimum 1 year experience in the helping professions. And recommended is a courses or a background in research statistical methods. Yes, Nancy.
You missed the undergraduate honors thesis.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. An undergraduate honors thesis. Thank you, Nancy. So that is also a requirement to be considered for admission to the program. A lot of people do ask, is that really required? Yes, it is. And the reason why it's required is because of the opportunities for being accredited through different governing bodies at the end of this program. So here's our notes and exceptions. I've got a few slides on this, okay? So with regard to the work experience, the admissions committee will add time in positions together to make up the equivalent of 1 year. There is no minimum requirement in terms of hours of work, but there should be a reasonable accumulation of time that is the equivalent of 1 or more years in a related field. And then with that, helping experience encompasses any activities where the helper is aware that they are providing assistance to someone who needs support for emotional or mental distress and needs. The person who seeks help is looking to the helper to provide assistance and help them improve and modify their current emotional and mental state. Helping experience does not include tutoring, teaching, sport performance, or coaching, which would be focused on making a change to a cognitive or physical state. But it does include experience where the helper is aware that they are responsible for attending to the emotional and mental needs and state of the client. So examples are distress centers, shelters, street level services for vulnerable people, and mentoring programs. Okay. So one marker of an acceptable helping experience is the inclusion of training on the role and limitations of a helper and the psychological needs and vulnerabilities of the client population. Okay, that's a lot, but it's important and I think it helps to clarify. Okay. So decisions for the counseling psychology program are based on application materials and a personal interview. So 15 students are going to be admitted to the program, and there's approximately 24 people that will be selected for personal interviews, which are held in March. So after the admissions committee takes a look at all of the applications, we will contact people mid to end February for when the interviews will be, okay? And you will be contacted by email, okay? So keep an eye on the email that you registered for the application with, okay? Whether it be your personal email or if you've got a UWO email address that you selected, make sure to keep an eye on your email, okay? Okay, so now that we've got the admission requirements out of the way, we're going to focus on the supplemental documentation. So unofficial transcripts are required at the point of application. No paper copies are necessary at this time. Okay, if you are offered admission to the program, that's when you would be required to provide us hard or paper copies of your transcript. But an unofficial grade report is totally fine for the purposes of the application review. Your statement of intent. Your statement of intent should be about 500 words. If you're 505, 510, the admissions committee will still read it. But if you're upwards 520, 550, they're going to stop reading. So keep it succinct and clear and try to stick to those 500 words as closely as possible. You'll also need to provide an updated resume or CV. There's no format that is required, but you do need to provide the most up-to-date version. Reference information. So we're looking for 3 references. And you input the information in the system, and then an email will be sent immediately to your referee. Okay, I'm going to go over a little bit more for reference information in an upcoming slide. Work verification letters. We get a lot of questions about work verification letters. These need to come on company letterhead. You would scan them and upload them to your application. So the requirements are company letterhead. They need to include your start and end dates or how long you've been there, as well as what your main responsibilities were or are. And it should come from your supervisor or the HR department. So as long as you hit those points in the work verification letters, then that meets all of our requirements. So supplemental questions. So we do ask specific questions within the application. I'm not sure which screen it is, but it is in the application. So these questions that we ask, they assist the admissions committee with assessing your application. So more supplemental documentation. So English proficiency scores, if applicable. If you have any questions about that, you can send us an email. I will put my email address in the chat at the end of the information session. A copy of marriage certificate to provide proof of name change if applicable. And if you are born outside of Canada, you must either provide proof of Canadian citizenship, landed immigrant status, or permanent residency, or you must provide your study permit and student visa when you arrive in Canada. And also, you should include any other information that you feel the admissions committee should have when considering your application. And all of these documents can be submitted electronically in the application. So here's some extra information about references. So for the references, we're looking for academic references in your application. Excuse me. And the reason why we're looking for academic is because your professional references are going to speak to your experiences related to a helping profession in a work verification letter. Okay, so when you input the information in the application, you should provide their full name, their place of employment, and their professional email address of the referee. So one thing I do want to point out here is as soon as you hit save or next in the application, your reference is going to immediately get an email. Okay, make sure to connect with the person that you are choosing to be your reference before you hit submit so that they are aware that the email is coming. Also, I do want to point out that you will receive an email when your reference has submitted their information. So keep an eye and make sure that your references submit by the deadline. You are able to change who your references are going to be. And for further information about that, I will have you email me because there's different steps to follow. Okay. Again, as soon as you hit save or next, they're immediately going to get an email. So just be aware of that, please. And here's another quiz. So this is the final round. So this is just so you know, this is the final round. So at the time of applications, are you required to send in paper copies of transcripts? Yes or no? Everybody's so good. That's a no. So again, at the time of application, we do not require paper copies of your transcript. Okay, and then the second question, who has been working at Western longer? Nancy Inchley or Allison Watson? That's right. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so additional topics of discussion. I want to thank everybody for registering for this session. I did ask in the RSVP link that if you had any additional topics of discussion. I think I covered most of them in the presentation, but there were a few that I couldn't fit in. So one was about time commitment. What is the time commitment for this program? So this is a really intense program. Our students hit the ground running in their first term. I'm guessing this time commitment question is leading to if you're able to work full-time while completing this program. The answer is no. This is a very intensive program, but a very valuable program and very I can't speak highly enough about our faculty. It's a very well regarded program. So sometimes you'll be just doing 9 hours of class per week, but there will be a lot of readings that are required for this program. So a lot of our students find that this is like a full-time job for the program. So about 40 hours a week between class time, assignments, and readings. Supervision. So yes, you will have a thesis supervisor for this program. However, you are not required to locate a supervisor prior to starting this program. You do not have to indicate who you want your preferred thesis supervisor to be. That is not one of our supplemental questions. And save that space in your statement of intent. Those 500 words go quickly. Our students are assigned a supervisor in their first term of study. So it's in the first month or two that you will be assigned a supervisor if you are admitted to the program. And then I had a question about future degrees and where this degree can take you. So we can only speak to the programs that are offered at the Faculty of Education here. We do have a PhD, a Doctor of Philosophy in the field of School and Applied Child Psychology. In the past, some of our graduates of our MA in Counselling Psychology program were applied to that program and were successful. So if you are thinking about continuing on to the PhD, as long as you as long as you meet the admission requirements for that program, you would be considered for admission. Like I said earlier in this presentation, this is a research intensive program. And even though it is in the Faculty of Education, it does have to do with counseling psychology. Okay. And then now it's time for you to ask questions. So I'm going to activate the chat, and if you aren't comfortable speaking in your microphone, that's okay. You can send your questions in the chat. If you want to ask your question, if you could raise your virtual hand, that would be great. And then I will call on you, and then you can ask your question. So let me get the chat active here. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen as well so that I can see everybody. Okay, great. Okay, so Jessica, you were first.
Hi, everyone. Firstly, I just want to say thank you so much for providing us with this information. It's very, very helpful. So my question is, I'm wondering if there's a practicum placement, because I know a lot of programs similar to this one have that included in the degree.
That's a great question, Jessica. Yes, there is an internship component in this degree, and our faculty members will help you locate a suitable internship placement. Did you have any other questions, Jessica, or was that good?
No, that was it. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Okay, so was it Jaywan? If I pronounce your name wrong, I'm sorry. Please correct me.
Yes, it's G1.
Jiwan, yes. What can we help you with?
Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. I just
Yeah.
have a short question. So I have a Bachelor of Honors degree in Science Biology, and I'm in Career Development Practitioner program at George Brown. Would you consider my application, um, even though I don't have psychology degree?
So Jiwan, I'm going to request that you email me directly, just because we don't like to get into these type of
Okay,
questions in a public forum like this.
okay,
So if you email me directly, that would be great.
okay,
I will pop my email address in the chat right now. So it's
okay,
info.graded@uwo.ca. And if anybody has any questions throughout the application process, please feel free to email me. I'm here to help you with your application so that you're not going to be on your own during this application process. Okay, so we've got a question. What's the application fee? I can't remember that off the top of my head, and I should have included it. Just looking on our website here.
I can look it up, Allie, if you want to go to the next question.
Perfect. Thank you, Nancy. So I'm going to Andrea, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to take a couple more questions in the chat. They came in fast and furious. So just give me 1 second, okay?
No problem.
Thank you. So it's actually 2 references that you are required to submit. So somebody has asked, you mentioned that we are required to provide 3 references, but one of your slides said 2 references. Did you mean 2 academic references and the proof of employment, or 3 academic? So it is 2 academic references that we are looking for, plus any work verification letters that you have. Okay, I'm sorry if I said 3. I believe the slide said 2. Maybe I misread it. My apologies. So how many hours of practicum is covered throughout the program? Ooh, that is a good question, and I haven't been asked that before. Sonam, I hope I said that right. I'm sorry if I did not. I'm going to get back to you on that. So how many hours of practicum? So I will get back to you on that. So I will send you an email with that answer. I'm sorry. So Andrea, let's take your question.
Yeah, so it says in the requirements that we are required to have completed an undergraduate thesis. I didn't complete an undergraduate thesis, but I do have an honors BA in psychology and I'm currently completing a master's and a master's thesis. So would I still be qualified to apply with a master's level thesis as opposed to an undergraduate one?
Andrea, I'm going to get you to email me, okay? I might have to check with the admissions committee just to make sure that that is applicable. But if you send me an email, I will get back to you, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. Okay, Casey, I'm gonna come back to you. I'm gonna take another couple questions in the chat here. So is the practicum placement paid? No, it is not. Typically they are volunteer practicum placement positions. Sorry,
Allison,
Nancy.
sorry, while
Yes,
you're looking, I believe the application fee is $125.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Okay, so I will add that in a future slide. Thank you, everybody. The application fee is $125. It can be paid by credit card, or check or money order, but that does delay the processing of your application. So I would recommend, if possible, paying by credit card. Okay, Casey, let's take your question.
Hi, sorry, I joined a little bit late, so I'm sorry if this was already said.
That's okay.
But about the supervisor,
Mhm.
so I was just wondering, I caught a little bit of what you said of how we shouldn't talk about that in the statement of intent. So do we need to mention a name at all, or just like literally wait for it to be assigned if we are admitted?
You can wait for it to be assigned. Like I said,
Okay.
that 500 words goes quick in the statement of intent. So I would not rather you, I would recommend you focus on saying why you want to come into the program. Okay.
Okay.
Anybody who is admitted will be assigned a supervisor.
Okay, thank you so
Okay.
much.
You're welcome. Okay, so so we've got another question in the chat here. Which semesters do I'm guessing that's placements which semesters do the placements happen in? I'm thinking that's the question.
Yeah, sorry, I realized I spelled the wrong
That's,
answer.
That's
Put in
okay.
the chat.
that's okay. I get it. You're just typing too fast. I do that all the time. So the internship takes place in, Nancy, could you look that up for
Yep.
me?
I can
Thank
tell
you.
you year 2 in the fall and winter terms.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, there I see your correction. Okay, so another question in the chat. I was wondering how and if the application process differs for applicants who applied last year as well. So it is a brand new application. Applications are reviewed with the current application pool. We receive different applicants every year, but you would be completing a full application again and uploading all of your required documents as well. If you have a follow-up, please let me know, okay? So is funding government grants part of the consideration for admissions? No, the admissions and the government grants are two completely separate entities. We do not know if students apply for any OSAP or personal loans or anything like that. We do not see student financial accounts in this department. Okay, if you have specific questions about OSAP, you'll need to connect with the financial aid office directly.
Sorry, do you mind if I just clarify? I know I
Yes.
meant
Yeah.
research grants.
Oh, research grants. Yes. So we again don't receive that information. If you have won an OGS or SHRC award, you can definitely include that in your CV or resume, and the admissions committee will review that. Is that better? Does that help more?
A little, thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so somebody is saying their best references are one academic and one professional. Is it required to have two academic references or recommended? So we do look for those academic references just because the professional references should be completing the work verification letter. However, if you cannot get two academic references, then we will accept a professional reference. That's not a problem. Okay, so we've got another question in the chat here. Are the entry to practice competencies for the CRPO completed on graduation of the program? Nancy, do you happen to know that?
I unfortunately do not.
Okay, I'm going to have to get back to you, Brandon. I'm just writing it down. Unfortunately, I can't copy and paste, so I'm writing it down.
I can read the next question for you,
Perfect.
Allison. So
Thank
I
you.
arrived late to the presentation, so you may already have mentioned this, but I was wondering the admission statistics for this program, i.e. how many people apply and get accepted each year. We did touch on that, and there is approximately 125, did you say, Allison?
150.
50
Yeah.
for 15 positions is what they offer for each incoming year. So it is very competitive. And that is why, like when Ali stressed the admission, the requirements, application requirements, yes, there are some people that applicants that have those minimum plus. So keep that in mind when you are applying.
Okay, we've got somebody with their hand up. Can you tell me how to pronounce your name, please?
It's Segolene.
Segolene. Okay, great. Thank you. And what's your question?
I actually had, I guess, like 2 questions. Could you just elaborate a little bit more about what the committee wants us to talk about in our personal statements? Like, do they want us to focus on like our previous research, or do they want to hear more about like our career goals?
So the admissions committee has not told us what they look for in the statement of intent. Essentially, you're selling yourself to the admissions committee. Let them know why you want to come into the program. And if you have an idea of what you want to research, you can touch on that as well.
Thank you. And then
You're
the second
welcome.
question was just for the 1 year experience, is it a year from like when we apply? So let's say so the program deadline is January 15th. So do you count like just you have to have hit a year by the time January comes? Sorry, I don't know if that.
I know, I understand exactly what you're saying. So the admissions committee is looking for that year experience. And if you haven't hit that year experience by the time January rolls around, the admissions committee, if you are admitted, the admissions committee will assume that you will have completed that 1 year by the time the program starts. Does that help you?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, let's take a few more in the chat, and then Jessica, I'll come back to you, okay? So will one academic and one professional reference decrease chances of acceptance? No, but my recommendation is to make sure the references that you choose speak highly of you. Okay, make sure that they are going to give you the best reference possible. I can't stress enough that 150 applications for 15 spots. Okay. So Hiba, we've gone over the additional information about the statement of intent. If you have further questions, definitely let me know, okay? So Jessica, you can go ahead.
So I have another question just about references. So just to kind of understand what you're looking for, are you just looking for a reference that's affiliated with a university institution, or do you want someone who supervised us like in class, for example?
It can be either or, as long as they speak to your capacity, like your academic capacity. So if you were really close with a TA that taught you one of your upper year courses, you can definitely include them. If you want to include your supervisor from your master's, your undergraduate thesis, you can definitely include them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Casey, let's take your question.
Okay, I have 2 questions about the internship. One, I was just wondering, where are the internships like typically, like, is it in a private practice or group settings?
So we do have, we have both, okay? And you are not going to have to struggle to find your own internship. We will work with you to help you find an internship. So it could either be at a private practice, or there's different areas, different entities in London where you could have your internship as well, okay? And it could be London or surrounding area as well.
Okay, yeah, that answers my second question about like if it's just London or like anywhere in the GTA even.
The supervisors and the faculty members will work with you to find a suitable placement for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Casey. Okay, back to the chat here. So if an applicant has multiple volunteer experiences, do they need to upload a work verification letter for each experience or just one? So you can have multiple work verification letters because each letter should talk about what your main responsibilities were, as well as your start and end dates. So if you have experience at two different companies or facilities, you should definitely include two work verification letters. Okay, I've seen some applicants have 4 or 5 work verification letters, and that's not a problem. It's not looked down upon at all. Okay, so Alora, this was answered, but what are the statistics for students who get accepted? So it's 150 applications approximately for 15 spots. Okay. So somebody might have missed it, or did I skip over the question? If is the practicum paid or not? They are unpaid practicums. Okay, we are caught up on the chat. If anybody has further questions, oh, someone
Just had a couple more pop in.
Yep. So the guidelines for the work letter, please. Yes. So what we're looking for is it needs to come on company letterhead. It needs to include your start and end dates or how long you've been there, as well as what your main responsibilities were. Okay. Okay, so here's another question. If your academic reference also supervised you in a professional setting, can we submit both letter of reference and a work verification form? So as long as the professional setting meets the requirements for that volunteer or help experience in the helping profession, you can include both. Like you can have them as a reference and you can include that work verification letter. So in the reference, they'll speak to your academic achievements, and then in your work verification letters, they're going to speak towards you in the more professional setting. Okay, Connor, let's take your question.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm in third year and I'm just trying to decide kind of what pathway I want to go on. I'm in psychology and I'm going to be doing an honors thesis, but like, I'm not sure what yet. So I was just wondering like quickly, like what's the difference between like a terminal master's program in counseling and like more of like the PhD clinical psychology program? Like what's the key selling point, I guess, for doing a master's in counseling?
So Connor, I'm going to have you email me that question, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, just so that I can get in depth to your background and everything. So I'm going to put my email in the chat again here. So it's info.graded@uwo.ca.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. There was a follow-up question to the professional setting with the work verification. So all work verification letters can be sent to you, and then you can upload that copy. You scan that copy and upload it to your application. Okay. So somebody says, it says on the website that a component of a sample of academic writing is required. No, you are not required to submit a writing sample. Okay, it says that writing sample and then it gives information for each of the programs, but this is not required. So is it possible to work with a supervisor from a different department? So your main supervisor has to be within the Faculty of Education because that's where the program is. But if you can have a co-supervisor or you can have a advisory committee member. So your co-supervisor or your advisory committee member can be from a different department, but your main supervisor has to be within the Faculty of Education. And during the time when your supervisor is assigned to you, you aren't just assigned a supervisor just to get a supervisor. You are assigned a supervisor based on your research, your research ideas. Okay. So looking for a clarification, are work verification letters only for our counseling related experience, or should we also request letters from our research experience? So your work verification letters need to focus on your experiences in the helping profession. Okay, so it's your professional experience, that it's counseling based professional experience, but your references should be academic references. You're welcome, Brandon. You're welcome, Anne. So I did schedule this because for an hour and a half, I figured you guys would have a lot of questions. Oh, sorry, I figured everybody would have a lot of questions. Please feel free to ask any questions that you can think of. Oh, here's another one. Our supervisor or manager needs to sign the work verification letter. Yes. So it should come on company letterhead, and it should come from your supervisor or the HR department. Another question about work verification. Is the work verification letter a series of set questions, or is it just whatever the professional would like to share? So there's no template for our work verification letter, but as long as it comes on company letterhead, it needs to include your start and end dates or how long you've been there and what your main responsibilities were, but there's no template for this work verification letter. So are there weightings for the different requirements? For example, are grades viewed higher than experience? No, there's no part of the application is weighted higher than another. The admissions committee will review every part of your application. So your transcripts, your admission average, your previous degrees, what your references say about you. They're going to look at every part of your statement of intent. They are going to look at every part of your application. Okay, Segaline, if you'd like to go, I hope I got it right.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
So my question was about actually, you said you calculate the last 2 years of your grade. So I'm in my last year of my undergrad. So would you be calculating just like my third year courses or 2 years from, I guess, January?
We'll go back, we'll look at the grades that are available, the last 2 years of grades that are available.
Available, okay.
Yeah, okay. So if you have, it'll probably be, most people is for second and third year.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Allura, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, I'm wondering if our grades for international exchange and such have been transferred to our home university. Do we still need the transcripts from our exchange?
So I hate this answer, but it depends. So if your transcript, like the transcript from your home university shows the grade that you received from the transfer credit or the international credit, you are not required to send in your additional transcript. But if it just says like a code like complete or in progress or pass is another popular one, then you would be required to send along your international transcript. Does that help?
Yes, and another
Great.
thing, how do you
Yes.
view courses that was during that COVID era if they're part of those 2 years?
So if there's a grade associated with that time, then we would use that grade. If it's just a course that says or pass or fail, it's not included in your grade calculation. We're looking for either letter grades or number grades is what we will use to calculate your admission average.
Just to confirm, so if I was on international exchange during that era and I have pass-fail grades, would I still need to get the international transcript then?
It's a great question, and
Mm.
you've stumped me. Could you send me an email and I'll connect with the department, another department, and I'll get back to you?
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll put my email address in the chat again here. So info.graded@uwo.ca. Okay, so we've got more in the chat here. So should the work verification letter speak to your competencies and abilities similar to a reference letter, or just list your responsibilities and job description? So if your employer wants to include that, that's okay as well, but it should include what your main responsibilities were. You can let them know that this is a competitive program that you are applying to, and any information they want to include in that letter that would benefit you would be great. So does the undergraduate thesis topic matter? Is another question from the chat. So the admissions committee hasn't said if topics matter, but because one of the requirements is that that undergraduate degree, that honorary undergraduate degree in psychology, I would assume that your undergraduate thesis does touch on psychology. Okay. So somebody wants to confirm, if I provide one academic and one professional, would this reduce the chances of being accepted? It does not, but we do prefer the 2 academic references because your professional experience should be outlined in those work verification letters. So somebody's asking, does the work verification letter have to be from an employed position, or can it be as volunteer as well? So the experience can be paid or unpaid. It doesn't matter if it's volunteer or you were paid for your work. That does not matter to the admissions committee. You're welcome, Holly. I don't know if anybody's madly typing. Here's another question. Do the references speak to academic achievements or interpersonal skills? So there are specific questions that the academic references do respond to. I'm not too sure what the questions are. An email is sent directly to the reference. They indicate if they're going to be a professional or an academic reference, but the reference does have the opportunity to provide a letter as well in the reference, that form that they fill out. Jessica, go ahead.
Hi again. Sorry, I keep asking questions about references just because this is, it's the 2 academic thing is really freaking me out. But so my question is, I could get 2 academic references, but my professional reference would be stronger. So what my next question is are the work verification letters looked at as at the same level as the reference letters, or is it kind of like a supplementary or like secondary thing to the reference letters? Does that make sense?
I think so. And all I can say is that because no part of the application is weighted higher than another, the admissions committee will still view all the documents that you submit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, I think we're going to end it here. The questions are slowing down, but if you have any further questions, definitely get in contact with me. My email address is info.graded@uwo.ca.